Like, all you're doing is telling that guy that there's an excuse for you if you want to give up. That's what you're telling him.
Yeah, and it will be okay. It'll be okay because and then we glorify the negative, consequences of not becoming successful, right? Like, I don't consider a rapper, even though they might be getting millions of dollars or whatever it is from record labels, I don't consider that successful. I consider that being used.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. Today we've got a very special guest, DJ, co-host of RealAF Podcast with Andy Frisella over at First Form. Also, black dude and they, them. How's it going?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
It's good to have you. I haven't seen it in a while.
It's been a minute, man.
Yeah.
It definitely has been a minute. Been too long. Yeah,
I don't remember. When was the last time I was out there?
Was it, 2 months ago?
Yeah, it had to be 2 or 3. It was during, it was like in September, I think, because it was when Pujols was chasing the 700 home run.
700.
So, yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense. So for people in our audience who haven't watched RealAF before, give me some background on you. Give a little bio.
Yeah. So I'm DJ, man. I do executive protection, close protection, private security. That's actually how I met Andy. But I got background in law enforcement. Spent a decent amount of time, still spend a decent amount of time with that. Got into the private sector. Started doing that back in 2018 heavily. And then 3 years ago, I was assigned through my company to provide some EP for Andy Frisella, and been with him for 3 years. And, eventually you spend enough time talking to somebody, you realize, man, values, morals, principles align. I like what you have to say, type of conversations, basically. And that kind of developed into me being on the podcast and sharing my perspective, I guess, of how I see the world through my eyes. And dude, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah. When you say shared values between you and Andy, can you give me some examples of that?
Yeah, I mean, like we both value, hard work. Like, my entire life growing up, I like to say that I was like right on that cusp of the crazy generation that doesn't believe in hard work, right? Like, I still had all of those principles and values that were instilled. Like, you're going to work hard for whatever you want. Nobody gets it easy, right? All of these type of these things were taught to me super, super young. And I think it was mainly just because of the environment that I was in, you know what I'm saying? And Andy believes in all of that stuff too, freedom. The idea that, we all have the ability to become whatever we want in this amazing country. And we both share those values.
Yeah, that hard work thing, generationally speaking, is really interesting. I think that's why a lot of us seem so successful, or maybe one of the reasons we become so successful is because half of our generation thinks that they're not required to do anything, that they're just entitled to receive whatever they've got coming to them. And it's, man, we're seeing the fruits of that lack of labor now, huh?
100%, dude. Like one of my big things that I've always been passionate about was working with youth, right? I came from the inner city of St. Louis, terrible fucking area. And I could have easily been one of the statistics of the black community, right? When I, became of age of an adult, I guess, I really started having a big passion to start pulling some of that youth up and letting them, and trying to basically tear down and dispel some of those myths, right? Like, there's an entire fucking world out here. You just have to work to go fucking achieve it. You just have to work to go get whatever you want. And despite whatever anybody tells you that, it'll just come if you just sit there and wait, all of that's bullshit, and so I took that as a very strong obligation, very young, coaching high school football, all across the greater St. Louis area. Just trying to get to these young kids. Like, listen, here's a young dude, looks just like you, came exactly from where you came from, right? And he's winning. He's doing some good stuff, and he's not having to sell drugs or rapping music videos to achieve that, and I think that's really what the world needs right now more than anything. which I think is why it's so important for a lot of guys like the Andys, like yourselves, like even Andrew Tate to some degree, that they're trying to capture these younger guys, men specifically, right at these ripe ages where it's super important to kind of get that reinforcement in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I always wonder, how does it help young people from troubled areas and troubled backgrounds for athletes and artists, musicians, celebrities, whoever, who came from there, to constantly tell them how the deck is stacked against them? Like, who's that message for? Like, all you're doing is telling that guy that there's an excuse for you if you want to give up. That's what you're telling him.
Yeah, and it will be okay. It'll be okay because and then we glorify the negative, consequences of not becoming successful, right? Like, I don't consider a rapper, even though they might be getting millions of dollars or whatever it is from record labels, I don't consider that successful. I consider that being used, and that's exactly what I would tell these young guys, right? But, it's so crazy, right? And I remember even the coaching staffs that I was involved with, we were all successful men in our fields. We were, many of us successful, leaders in our household, right? And we had wives and they were raising kids, right? And so these guys, these athletes, they were being told all their life that hey, listen, you could either play ball or you can rap music and you can win. And we were always pushing these guys and telling them hey, listen, those are not your only two fucking options. This dude's a cop. This dude works for a freaking bank. You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty of other options you could do outside of just those two. Now, I mean, there is a reality where for a lot of those guys, that may be all they have, right? Or they just naturally have inclination and they naturally have, some super amazing gifts on the field, right? Yeah, for sure, use that, but use that to pay for college. You know what I'm saying? Get a real fucking degree in something, right? Rather than, don't do the gender studies shit, right? But get something that's that you can actually use and use that just to get you there. But understand that at some point the lights on the field shut off. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
Those conversations, they need to happen a lot more for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest barriers to entry for people starting in any path, whether it's a career field or education or starting their own business or whatever it happens to be, is not knowing what the path is, right? So Meriwether Lewis and his buddy, I don't know Clark's first name. Maybe it was Clark Griswold from Family Vacation, but just the fact that they mapped out the entire western part of the United States. Now, all of a sudden, things like the Oregon Trail can happen, right? So people can start migrating, but that's kind of a weird example, but people don't know how to get from point A to point B unless somebody's done it before a lot of times. There's the trailblazer that happens from time to time, but more or less people are following in other people's footsteps. So when I hear somebody like LeBron James, for example, who's become wildly successful in America, tell young black men that the deck is stacked against them, that it's not fair and blah, 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 and it's going to be harder for them to make it and all this shit. It's like, man, who's that message for exactly? Like you've made it now, and your job is to pull other people up with you, not saddle them with your fucking bullshit.
Bro, that's the crabs in the bucket mentality. It honestly enrages me because there's a lot of well-known black figures that do that. You know what I'm saying? They all push that narrative. Yes, I made it, but I'm the outlier. You know what I'm saying? Dude, it boggles my mind. And one stat, one thing that I always love to tell people, right? You look at St. Louis, and it's not the biggest city in the country, right? But the wealthiest man in St. Louis City, or in the greater metro area, okay, is a black man, right? He's worth about $8 billion right now. His name's Dave Stewart. He is the CEO and founder of Worldwide Technology, and they sell all the back end stuff to Microsoft and Apple. And he is the wealthiest dude. And he didn't play basketball. You know what I'm saying? So why? I think the crab is in the bucket thing, man. There's this massive scarcity mindset that goes around where it's if I'm eating and I try to tell you how to eat, you're somehow taking away from my ability to feed myself. It makes no sense.
No,
it makes absolutely no sense.
no.
Man.
The reality is that when we all do better, we all do better, right? There's no scarcity of resources.
There's enough food for everybody to eat.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And I
I
don't.
would say the good thing is, though, it is changing a little bit, man. Like I've definitely seen over the last 3 years, like a lot of my quote unquote friends or people that I grew up with, from high school or whatever it is, I definitely have seen them, kind of have that shift in their mentality and move away from that because they're looking and like, okay, well, BJ is not afraid of sharing tips and tricks and the hacks, if you will, right? Like he's putting it all out there, and he continues to still do well. He's doing successful. He's living a very good, modest life. You know what I'm saying? He's going to continue to win. Maybe I should try that. And so I've definitely have seen a shift. It's good. Obviously, it's not happening as fast as I would want it to, but it is hopeful to know that it is happening.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of it is about mindset. People are afraid to fail, but that's the wrong idea, man. We fail most of the time. We fail. You know what I mean? That's what makes the success so, I guess, worthwhile. You put it out there and you see what happens. And what's the worst that can happen? You're wrong and you discover that you're wrong and then you get right. Like I don't understand why people are so afraid of that process, because that's how literally everything. If you go to the batting cage to practice your swing and you foul a couple of balls off, you don't throw the bat down and give up. So like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna fucking play basketball now.
You get 3 out of 10, you'll still be in the fucking Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Yeah, it drives me crazy, man. And it's but there's plenty of roadmaps out there now for people to follow, and I think a lot of it gets lost in the hubbub. There's a lot of static and noise out there. A lot of grifters like Liver King, and he's not even the worst, to be honest. He's just a clown. Everybody knew that guy was on steroids the whole time. But there's people out there giving really, really stupid advice to people and getting paid for it. There are people who made money. They made their fortune telling other people how to make their fortune in a way that that person will never make a fortune, right?
Never make it.
Yeah,
no.
It's just like a fucking.
Bro, but then think about that. Then they're like, okay, well, fuck, what am I doing wrong? Because it's obviously working for this person. They can't connect the fucking dots.
No, it's just a pyramid scheme for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm
glad I've never felt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of the I think it's a big part of our generation because, as you said, we are kind of on that divide between hard work and not hard work. But people on the other side of that still have the expectation of success. And if you're not going to work hard to get success, then you have to scam or something else, right? It's got to be some kind of microwave function.
Hack. Yeah. It's like losing weight, man. Like there's no fucking. There's no fucking quick fix rap. I'm learning that the hard way right now. I'm down 70 pounds right now. There was definitely many times where I've tried the quick fix pill and the quick fix fucking rap and a lot of crazy shit, and it never fucking worked. Why? Because at the end of the day, you want to lose weight, stop fucking eating so fucking much and work out. Is a very, very simple thing, and I relate that very much to success. There's all these people selling these hacks and shit, and none of that shit will ever work. Just go fucking do the work.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, there's no substitute. And here's why. So what you're purchasing with the hack or the pill or the shortcut or whatever it is a way to bypass developing discipline, right? That's what you're purchasing with that. But there is no way to bypass discipline because eventually those old temptations, whatever they happen to be, they're going to creep back in. And if you haven't mounted an ardent and sophisticated response and resistance to that, then you're going to fucking just gain that weight back, or you're going to fucking start slacking off at work again, or you're not going to be as productive as you want to be, or you're not going to be spending as much time with your families, whatever it is you're trying to fix in your life. It's not going to work unless you build those little disciplines that take 10 weeks, roughly. Like psychologically speaking, it takes about 10 weeks in your brain to build that wall against, temptation. So there is no substitute for that.
No, other than just fucking, you just got to do it.
And that's,
You gotta do it.
I'm glad we got into that conversation because it kind of leads into what this show is all about. So my premise in this show is that you can either be a citizen or you can be a subject. And a subject is somebody who sits around expecting their rights to be fulfilled. And a citizen is somebody who acts in a way that secures those rights. Simply put, you take it upon yourself to accept the responsibility, right, for the actions you have to do, for the attitude you have to secure the rights. Because look, writing stuff down on a piece of paper doesn't mean shit unless you're willing to defend that idea, not just with violence and guns and stuff, but defend it with the way you live your life.
Dude, it's imperative. But I think that's right now. There's a massive void on people because I was looking through some of the principles that you have that you share on this, and one of the principles is it's number 4. I have just put it up here, but no matter where I am, I will be a leader. As a leader, I will eat last. Like there's a massive void of just very simple common sense morals and values in this country right now. And like I look at most people, man, and like I feel like most people, they're like fucking shopping bags in the wind. They're branches on the tree in the middle of the valley. Like it's whatever way the wind blows, I will either waver, or I'll allow, or I'll settle. I'll concede, right? Like, and it's never to make them comfortable or okay. It's always to make somebody else feel better. Or like it boggles my mind. Like I don't think. I mean, maybe we're not supposed to get it right, but I think it's imperative, man. Like we got to get back to just some common sense values that, like, I don't give a fuck who you are. You can't change them. You won't change what I stand for, and I'm going to stand by that. I'll die on that hill. And right now, there's just a massive void in that in our society, and like for sure, it's an American issue, right? But we're also seeing that, I mean, all over the world globally. And so like one of the things that I would like to see is that massive ripple effect, and obviously that starts at home, and that's why I think that core principle you had there really sticks with me. Because like right now I am a leader, right? Like I have my daughter, I have my fiance. I have to lead them. Like I can't just pick and choose when I'm going to lead them or what situation. Like I can't control those situations that come to me that force me into action or force me into thought, whatever it is. I have to be that person regardless. I have to be dead regardless, no matter. Like we just got to get back to not wavering in our fucking beliefs and not being so easily fucking persuaded to change them. It blows my mind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's how are you supposed to really stay on course if you don't have if you're not grounded in some kind of way, I guess is a good way to say that. I use these analogies sometimes on the show, but when you're it's no different than drawing a range map if you're shooting. It's no different than placing your pinky on the pick guard of a guitar to know where your hand is so you're hitting the right strings. And the other part of it is that it speaks to purpose. Now, I talk about this, especially for men, by the way. I talk about this a lot when I'm talking about suicide in the veteran and first responder communities. And I appreciate a lot of the effort that's been put into this by a wide range of people who are all like, they actually care about it. They're deeply concerned about it. But the idea that focusing all of your attention on yourself and coddling yourself and self-care is going to work on A-types who have defined their entire life by their purpose to heal what's wrong with them, that's nonsense. It's not going to work. Like you're biologically programmed to provide and protect, right? So if you're depressed because you feel useless, because you're not providing and protecting, or you feel like you can't provide and protect or whatever else. It's a very simple formula, right? Look, this isn't rocket surgery. We know exactly what's going on here. It's nihilism. And the solution to that is purpose. And that's why, I mean, Gandhi said this fucking 60 years ago, but if you want to truly find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. Sounds like some hippie bullshit. Maybe it is. I don't give a fuck. But it doesn't mean you have to go hug trees and shit. It means figure out. This is something I tell people to do a lot. When they ask me about how do I find my purpose, examine your emotions. Think about what makes you really angry or really sad or really happy. But especially the negative ones. Find out what makes you really angry. What fucking bothers you when you see it. What makes you sad. What makes you feel when you see it. And go fix that problem. Right? That's how you find your purpose. Like your body and your brain are telling you what to do. You just have to listen to it.
Absolutely. Like I think of it like this. Like what would you draw the line in the sand on? You know what I'm saying? Like I think we've seen, especially in the last 5 years. People will draw this line in the sand. The situation happens, they'll erase it, scoot back, draw it. Like what is that? Like what is going to make you draw that line in the sand and actually hold that line, right? Like that's how I think about purpose, and I think a lot more people, I think more people need to really reflect on that, man, because they don't have it. I 100% agree with you, and it has to be bigger than yourself, and whether it's family, whether it's just service in your community, whatever it is, it has to be bigger than yourself.
Yeah, maybe 100%. Maybe that's how nature works. I mean, we always find symbiosis and balance in nature, right? Whether it's alkalines and acids, or whether it's gravity, whatever it happens to be. Maybe a certain amount of us really care about certain things, right? And it's incumbent upon us. Maybe it's just one thing that we really care about, our line in the sand as you refer to it. And maybe it's our job to make sure that one thing is addressed and taken care of. And the fact that we're so distracted with everything else, those things aren't getting taken care of, is why we see so much widespread societal decay now. You know what I mean? Which, it's a tumbling effect. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And we look around and are like, man, I'm trying my best and things keep getting worse. It's like, yeah, but you're doing the wrong thing, dude. And now you're getting depressed about it. Yeah. Trying to ice skate uphill. Yeah. It's stupid. It's stupid. And it's, I say it's stupid, not to call the people doing it stupid, because I've done it. I'm still doing it. We all do it all the time. Life is about making constant adjustments. Like anytime you feel comfortable, that should be a warning sign to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fucking alert tone should be going off. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big one too, man. I think a lot of people actually, they know what their purpose is. They're just afraid of actually going through with it, right? And that's why they find themselves swimming against the stream so often. Like for some reason they're afraid to go in it. Whether it's it might be because of what their friends say or what their family say. It's like there's something that holding them back. But like I know a lot of people, they know exactly what needs to be done. They know exactly what they need to do. They know exactly why they were put here. For some reason, they just don't fucking go. They don't go. Like I knew, for a while that like one of my passions, what I feel like my purpose is to protect and serve. Like it's been embedded in me for a long time, and it came back from when growing up in a single parent household, trying to take care of my little sister, protect her from the crazy environment we were in. Like it was just kind of always there. Right. Even playing football, I like to protect people. So I played offensive line. I didn't play D line. Right. Like I always had that protective mindset. And so instead of running away from that, I embraced it. Okay, how can I squeeze all the juice out of this lemon as much as possible in the short amount of time, this blink of existence we have in this universe. And I think more people should just fucking like go with it. Go with it.
What would you say to somebody who the person you're describing, they see their purpose, they feel what it is, but they can't bring themselves to start working on it for whatever reason?
I think everybody will come to that realization in time. I just think that if we realize, the more amount of time that you spend away from that, the longer you spend swimming against the grain, right? Swimming against the stream, you'll get drained, right? And eventually you'll just die of fucking exhaustion, right? So, I don't know if it's necessary. Like, I don't think I have like any actionable steps, but just like, you got to be conscious that, like I said, our existence in this universe is a fucking blink. When you think about how long this universe has existed, and our lifespan, whether we get 80 years, I mean, that's fucking nothing. It's a fucking, like, it's nothing, And so I think, I think everybody has that inner purpose, right? Like, I forget who, I think it was Sad Guru, but we all have two lives. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to fuck this up. What did he say? He said something to the effect of, like, everybody's born, or what is it? You know what I'm talking about? Fuck.
Yeah,
like
the second
twice, the second one.
It's the
starts
second
when you find out why.
Well, the second one begins when you realize you only have one life to live.
Yeah. So it's like, figure it out, and just understand the longer the longer you spend away from that, you'll be stuck forever in this never-ending cycle of depression, like, because you're not doing fucking anything, right? Your ability to provide for your family because you're not living through your happiness. Everything's tied into that. So stop wasting fucking time and just go get it.
Yeah, I would add to that just some practical advice. People often say or animate in some way or another, not if they don't say it directly, that the problem's too big for them, right? It's something I hear a lot. It's only going to keep happening. Things are only going to get worse. No one's going to get held accountable. No one's going to do anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're somebody and you can do something, first of all. So that's stupid. But it is true that if you refuse to be part of the solution, that none of these positive things are going to happen.
You're complicit in the problem.
Yeah. You're a net negative. Not even just complicit. You're making it worse by adding to the stream there. But if you feel like the problem is too big for you, reduce the problem to a level that you can affect it and work on that, right? And when enough of us do that, then the problem gets solved. So I can't solve hunger, but I can stop that motherfucker's hunger right now. I can go feed that person right there that's hungry. And if enough people do that, then there are no more hungry people. We can work on a new problem. That's a very practical way to deal with that shit. And it's how you would deal with any other problem, whether it's engineering or math or science or an investigation even. You've conducted plenty of investigations. You reduce things down to the lowest possible level and trying to solve one piece at a time and then put those pieces back together. That's how everything works in life.
Dude, I think people don't understand the real effect and the real positive consequences of the ripple effect has, right? Like, I that is one of the weakest excuses that I hear is, why I don't have a following. Nobody's going to live. Like, bro, fuck that. You got neighbors to your left and fucking right. Go talk to them, right? What are they thinking? What are they doing? Maybe you guys get together. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just such a weak excuse, and it's a cop out, honestly. Dude, I have very little respect for those people, especially people who know that shit is wrong and know that things need to be done or things need to be said, and they cop out and use that fucking excuse not to do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they leave it up to the like, we're not fucking, I'm not special. There's nothing fucking special about anything. Like, we're normal fucking people. We just choose to fucking do something. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's the kind of facade, I guess, that especially social media has kind of given everybody. Like, they're giving people these false senses that they use as escapes and excuses to be inactive and non-productive, right? And it's fucking sad, to be honest. And everybody's chasing the likes, and they only want to do something. Like, I'll speak up if I get the attention. Like, bro, fuck that. How about you just speak up and then get the attention? And guess what? Even if you don't get it, you're still doing something positive. It's so, we got a lot of issues, man. We got a lot of issues.
Yeah, and a lot of them are rooted around the disconnect between effort and reward, right? That's kind of how it's at the very base level of physics, cause and effect. Like, something happens, and then as because of this happens. And for some reason in modern society, we've lost the ability to connect effort, hard work, persistence, even suffering to some kind of outcome, right? It just doesn't work that way anymore. It's like, well, it's not fair. It's not fair that I should have to do that. What the fuck do you mean it's not fair, dude?
Right. Well, on top of that too, what they've done is the gap between the cause and effect, through social media, through technology, they've tried to close down that the lapse between cause and effect.
It's like The Secret, right?
Now,
I made my vision board. Where's my stuff, man?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Stupid.
you think back to like fucking farmers or hundreds of years ago that would plant a fucking crop and you gotta wait. They're like that's the one variable that nobody likes to account for, and they've made that gap between cause and effect to be so small that now anything that's a second longer than it should be, oh, well, fuck it, I'm just done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you gotta wait. You gotta be patient. Patience is a virtue. Like, all that shit went out the window. And so this instant gratification, like I have to be instantly satisfied, or I have to have the instant result from whatever I want. Like, bro, you can go in a gym for, 12 hours fucking straight and work out. You're not gonna be fucking skinny tomorrow. Like, that's not how it works. Like time is that variable that people fail to fucking account for. And I think a lot of it's intentional for sure. Right. But the shit takes time to fucking develop.
Yeah, and it's maybe we've lost the ability to compartmentalize. There's so like the anxiety level of modern Western culture is so high for some reason. I can't imagine that people in the pioneer days were nearly this anxious about things, despite the fact that they were facing far greater risk than we ever will. You know what I mean? Like if the crop doesn't come in for them, they die. Or if they don't stay proficient on maintaining their home and firewood and their weapons so they can defend against intruders, they die. You know what I mean? The risks are so much greater. So there is some relationship between a smaller amount of risk and a greater amount of anxiety that we're seeing in Western culture. And it's I guess it makes sense to some degree because, iron sharpens iron and all this stuff. But I've fallen into a lot of modern traps personally, but that's not one of them. That one doesn't make sense to me, where the expectation is that things are just going to work out, and when they don't, it's not fair. I don't understand that idea. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I wonder you're a father, how old's your daughter, like 3 or 4 years old?
She's 2 going on fucking 20.
Yeah, oh my God. Terrible twos. Well, congratulations on that. That's why you look so tired, huh? All the time.
Yeah.
So, it's getting to that point now where she's going to start learning core memories, right? Things are going to start sticking over the next year or two. How do you approach that as a father of a young child like that? Like, how do you expose them to the right kind of stress so they don't become anxious later in life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, like, dude, so I'm reading this book right now. It's called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by Dr. Betty Meeker. Amazing book. It's amazing. It's an amazing book. And so, like, for me, I took a different approach, man, because, like, I didn't have a father in my life, right? So, like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know how to be a good dad, right? But instead, I use the negative outlook, right? Meaning, I don't know what a good father looks like, but I know what a bad one looks like, and so I just don't do that, right? What's the opposite of that? And I'll just do whatever the opposite of that is, right? And so, for me, like, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of fear, I guess, of failure, I guess, when it comes to being a father. But one of the things that I know for sure is, like, I'd never want her to suffer, right? Like, I was told no a lot growing up, and it wasn't because, like, it was because we just couldn't either afford it, we couldn't do it, whatever it was. I was told no quite a bit, right? And I remember telling myself as, like, an internal promise that, like, I never want to tell her no because we just can't afford it. Like, if I tell her no, I want it to be because I want her to learn this lesson, or I want her to do that, And I think, like, I know for a fact that my daughter's childhood, my daughter's upbringing, her outlook on life is going to be drastically different than how mine was, right? And knowing that, like, I don't want to raise this unaware NPC fucking, like, I don't want to raise that, right? And so I think it's important, like, how I'm going to look at raising my daughter is that I know for a fact that I'm going to have to manufacture these opportunities of life lessons, right? Because she's going to be shielded. She's not going to, hear gunshots and ambulances every night, right? But like I know that I'm going to have to manufacture some opportunities of struggle for her, right? And because obviously I don't want her, like, I mean, dude, like when I was fucking 9 years old getting dressed for school one morning, lights were cut off. I couldn't fucking pay the bill. So I got dressed in the dark that morning, right? And I remember walking to the bus stop to get on the school bus. And it's early in the morning, the sun's not even out yet. And the street light was on. I looked down at my fucking feet. I got two left shoes on. Or, not two left shoes. I had two different fucking pairs of shoes on because I was getting dressed in the dark. She will never have to worry about that, right? But how can I expose her to some type of struggles? Or maybe I do say no more, but not because we can't. It's just because I want her to learn this lesson. And so I'm definitely going to have to manufacture that because I know she's not going to have to go through real hardships and struggles. But I also don't want her to be this fucking, complacent, woe it's me, like we're seeing a lot of other, right? But I would rather manufacture her struggles now than have her manufacture them fucking later.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we want to give our kids, I mean, the general standard is we want to give our kids a better life than what we had, right? And I think that's a noble thing, and it's certainly something as an infantryman.
Caveat there.
Yeah. As an infantryman, I always want to improve my fighting position. It's just like ingrained in my DNA to do that. So every move I make is in some way designed to do that. But you also have to balance. You have to weigh what it means to be better in the balance of the actual outcomes of better, right? So, give them a more comfortable life. What does that mean? Because having a high stress, high anxiety life doesn't sound very comfortable to me. And despite being more comfortable in the way that society defines it, in this generation, they also have higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide than we did, right? So is that comfort? Is that a better life than what we had as children? Fuck no, it's not. That's stupid, right? So we have to reimagine what it means to give the kids a better life. And I think you're on track there with the manufacturing the struggle. Brett Weinstein talks about this a lot. He and his wife Heather Hang in their book, The Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century. If you haven't read that, you should read that one too. And they talk a lot about this, where your kid just isn't going to run into the same kind of stuff that you did. But you can simulate a lot of it. So one of their rules is let the kid take risk. You take marginal risk under supervision as a child, and then you learn how to take bigger and bigger risk as time goes on. And the research shows that kids who are exposed to stuff like this, what a lot of people in the Midwest and out towards Utah are calling free range parenting. They're finding that the kids are better at making good decisions later in life. Like they're less involved in drugs and crime at an early age, lower rate of teenage pregnancy, lower rate of anxiety and depression and suicide, all this stuff, because they have context for life. You know what I mean? You can't shield somebody forever and just expect them to start making good decisions at 18. That's fucking stupid.
Right. Well, and dude, I think that's going to be a massive obstacle that people, parents now are going to have to think about, because obviously we see all the attacks on our children, right? Like, the grooming, the pedophilia, right? And so I think it's a natural, innate, kind of thought process. I want to shield and I want to protect my daughter and my children from all of this shit, but like, what's the trade-off? Because then you're going to drop them off into the real world and they're going to be unexposed to fucking everything and they're going to fucking lose.
Right.
It's super critical, man. It's super critical. And I've definitely been putting more thought into that, man, because I know that in 20 years or let's even say 16 years for her, the world is going to look drastically different than what it does right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to prepare for tomorrow. I'm preparing for 16 years from now.
Have you read The Coddling of the American Mind?
I have not.
I got to say,
whatever you say to read, I trust you, so I'm going to read it.
Yeah, it's written by a couple of academic dudes, but they're super smart stuff. But the general premise from the book is you have to prepare your children for the road and not the road for your children, right? So you can't go around bubble wrapping everything. Yeah. There's no way for you to protect them from everything. There's no way for you to even expose them to everything or educate them on everything. You just have to give them a general sense of confidence and good decision-making skills. That's what you can really impart on your kids. And it's not something that I run into, like, I'm sure you guys run into it too. It's hard to find people to hire these days, to be honest. And I hear this from people from every industry. Like, we can't find people who will work hard. We can't find people who are problem solvers. We can't find people who don't have to be constantly micromanaged all the time. We're
That's
failing.
because they've incentivized being fucking lazy.
Yeah.
You know, like the report just came out last week. It's 62% of the eligible workforce is working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They've incentivized.
We have 11 million open jobs in America right now.
Yeah. Like it's and like that's like, listen, there's always going to be a population of people that like are literally physically maybe even not able to work. That's not what's counted in that statistic. We're talking about people who have zero issues, have zero medical issues, have the ability to work. 38% are not. That is a fucking problem. You know, like but think about it, bro. They've incentivized being lazy. They've incentivized that you don't have to work for anything, and they've made a lot of people, a large amount of people. They've given them this false sense of reality of how the world really works, which ultimately is going to lead to more of that, man. And I think the problem is going to be when that 62% drops down to like 50 or drops down to 49. We're screwed because you got 62% of the fucking workforce is basically providing for everybody else. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's this is the societal fruition of the is-ought fallacy, right? So the is-ought fallacy occurs when the assumption is made that because things are a certain way, they should be that way. Or the inverse of that, which is that things should be a certain way, so I'm going to assume they are that way. That's where the it's not fair bullshit comes from. Like, it doesn't matter if it's fair or not. It is reality. You know? Yeah. One of my favorite people of all time is Carl Sagan. And he used to say that for me, it's far better to accept the universe as it is rather than persist in delusion, regardless of how gratifying the delusion might be. Because otherwise, you create this little bubble that you're living in. And every time you actually try to expose yourself to the real world, there's sharp edges out there and they poke that bubble and you're like, oh no, I've got to get back in my bubble. Well, you're a fucking loser, dude. Like, you're never going to win at anything. And I don't mean a loser and like you're a loser of a person. I mean, you're going to lose always.
Bro, not the natural order of fucking nature, right? I think humans forget, like, we're fucking animals. We're part of the animal kingdom, right? Like, it's not nature. Nature does not work like that. And I think this natural order, bro, is going to come back and give a lot of people a giant fucking punch in the fucking face, which is needed, in my opinion. You know, and like we've been operating how it should be for far too long. You know, and dude, it's going to be a massive rude awakening for a lot of people, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Because natural order always wins.
And we're not doing anybody any favors either by protecting and shielding them from reality. That doesn't ever do anybody any favors.
No.
Not really sure why we would do that. So some of the other principles on the list, like, you know, one of my favorites is I'll do something every day to help my country. My countrymen are all men. Yeah. But these are downstream things. You can't do any of this stuff unless you got your own shit sorted out. You know what I mean? Right. Like, if you still believe that things should be this way and they're not, so that's not fair, that's bullshit. Right? That's essentially a platitude around which you're trying to organize your life. So when I hear empty phrases like that, I cringe at the vagueness of it. Like, man, live in reality. Because it sucks sometimes, but who cares?
So like, what now? What?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
I don't think we should be in the business of micromanaging each other's lives either. And that's what comes about when there are so many weak and incapable people in society. Then government becomes stronger and stronger, and it just keeps sucking like a fucking like the Borg. It keeps assimilating people's rights and stuff. It's man. It's like, well, somebody's got to do something. The government's got to help. Why would the government help? Why would you trust the people that are constantly trying to rob you to come help solve this problem?
Because in all reality, like, they are able to only have power because so many people are weak. Like that is the problem.
That's the absolute truth. Yeah.
If you don't think that they're intentionally going to try to hold power and do whatever they have to do to make sure that that balance stays that way, you're insane. You're insane, and dude, like conspiracy or like whatever people want to say, we are being intentionally misled, and we have been for the last 50 plus years at least, right? We have been intentionally programmed to become weaker, become fatter, become sicker, right? So that they can feed us their solutions, they can offer us our help, and we'll keep draining the people who still have, good common sense core values of hard work and good moral compasses, right? We're going to continue to drain those people because at some point, like it says in the book Atlas Shrugged, at some point they'll give up too, and they'll feed into the whole system. It's intentional, right? Why would they show you pictures of 450-pound women, calling them the fucking ideal, look of beauty? Why would they do that? Right?
It's called television programming for a reason.
And the 62% of people can look at them like, well, that's not fucking true. Like they know that's not true, but then that shit gets echoed and pushed so much. It's in every fucking magazine. That is programming. They want you to achieve that, and so that's why, if you listen to Andy, he says it all the time, personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. Whatever they want you to do the opposite. Just do the opposite. They want you fat, be fucking fit. They want you fucking broke, become fucking rich, right? Like get off of that, and I really hope, and I truly believe that we won't get to a point of Atlas Shrugged, man. I think there's still going to be always a majority of people that are with the shit, as far as the hard work and all of that, But it is a plausible reality, and I think it's irresponsible to not at least think into that and look into that and understand what causes that type of stuff, and do everything you can to run the opposite direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's especially so you have to think about these things in context too. So it's hard to own a home now for people. Young people, 25-year-olds used to be that somebody between 25 and 30 after they graduated college, they would be buying a starter home, something that's like $80,000 to $150,000. Nothing great, maybe a little farther out from the city than they'd like, and all this stuff. And now everybody's renting. Like renting has gone up by about 65%, I think, in the last 5 years. And it's like, so who cares? I'll just buy something later, or it's more convenient for me to rent. Think about the power.
I'm going to live in a fucking van and just travel the earth.
Yeah, but you have to think about what you're sacrificing for that convenience. I think is a really important thing. You should always think about whenever again, it's that whole if things get too comfortable, you should start growing suspicious of what's happening around you, and of your own actions and motive as well, because what are you surrendering and to whom for that convenience? Like, how much power am I giving up over my own life and over the lives of my family, my community, to whomever it is by taking this shortcut? That's the real fucking equation.
Yeah, dude, I honestly don't think humans, like the human sapiens, right? Like, I don't believe we were ever intended to be creatures of comfort. I don't think that was ever the case.
Well, no, of course not. We define our life. I mean, the Matrix was right. We define our lives not through the struggle itself, but through our overcoming the struggle. That's how we define our purpose in life. Every single person on earth does the same thing.
100%, man. And this idea of just like, comfort, I want the white picket fence. Like, bro, fuck that. It makes zero sense, man. But it makes perfect sense again. Like when you tie it back to the intentionality of this shit. And exactly what they're trying to produce, and then they build these things, but at the same time, why? So they tell you to strive for this ideal comfortable place, but at the same time they demonize success and demonize winning and demonize all the things that are required for you to achieve that, and then give you the excuses for when you don't achieve it and tell you that it's okay. Here's the government sit.
And think about how they parse that out too. So if you're a woman or a minority or an immigrant in America, it's like, oh, it's all stacked against you. You know what I mean? There's no point. And if you're a white person, it's like, oh, you've got privilege. That's the only reason you're even allowed to do that. And trying to make people feel guilty for taking advantage of what's available to them. Like, man, this is some
white straight men right now are fucked, bro.
Yeah, this is some next level psyop bullshit right here. Like, and I don't think at the core, I don't think most people believe it. They look at it and they're like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But they accept it because it's convenient. It's more convenient it's just a mask. It's just a shot. It's just a lockdown. Well, fuck that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Like, that's the thing, man. I say this all the time. We are being attacked on many different fronts, right? Like, this is, some will call it spiritual warfare, right? But we're being flanked on all fucking sides. And so I think, well, how do you combat that, right? Like, all right, well, see where the fuck the water's leaking from in the boat and patch the fucking hole. And I think it's a misconception for a lot of people I think the misconception of people, people say, well, it's out of my control. People don't understand there's a lot more things in your control than I would say not. Like, when you talk about something that's outside of your control, that's a fucking natural disaster. That's a fucking hurricane. That's a tornado. Those things are out of your control, right? But your daily actions and decisions, right? On average, we make about 1,000 decisions a day. Those are all in your fucking control, right? And it's imperative, man, now more than ever, because we're being attacked on so many different fronts, right? Our children are being attacked, our finances, our financial success being attacked, right? Like, our ability to thrive and provide, that's all being attacked. We're being attacked on so many fronts. It's imperative that you figure out where those holes are and you do your fucking best to patch them, because you have the majority of your decisions in your control. And people got to get over that fallacy, bro.
Yeah, 100%. I think the most important thing that a lot of people are going to be able to do, especially in the circumstances that we all find ourselves in today, is to say no to stupid shit that doesn't make any sense, right? And then the follow-up to that is to examine the stupid orders and figure out what the intent behind them is, because that's how you know what their plan is. Like, when you see the political class, internationally speaking, the political class, but also here in the U.S., the media, academia, and all this stuff, attacking all of the institutions that protect us, right? So police, first responders, the military, even masculinity itself, gun rights, things like this. Whenever you see them coming after the things that protect you, I see that no differently than somebody bombing my fucking air defense. Like, that means they're trying to come in and fucking take over my shit. That's exactly what's happening right there. And that's how you should feel, right?
What's the goal? What are they trying to achieve?
Cui bono.
Why would they?
Cui bono is a good thing to ask yourself. Who benefits from this action? Who benefits from the American population not being armed? It's not the American population.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's a very critical question people should be asking. Like, bro, I even think back to the lockdowns, man. Like, why would, obviously they were censoring everything, right? You talked about COVID, whatever, it was censored, or your shadow banned, but like, why would they close down and limit businesses and restaurants and bars from having people in there, right? Because the seeds of revolutions are sown in taverns, right? And so if we know we can't communicate on here and we go try to have word, well, we can't go there because they closed the fucking bar down, or there's a 25% occupancy limit, right? Like, everything they do has a fucking purpose. And I think the reason a lot of people miss these things, man, is because there's so much in history. The saying, history repeats itself. I challenge that with, it's the history that we don't learn from repeats itself, right? And it's either not learned because, we are apathetic and we don't, go out of our way and spend the extra time to go look into stuff, or it's intentionally left out of conversations. But you gotta look into that stuff, man. And I think that's why a lot of people can't really draw the conclusions of why this happens. All this shit it's all happened. There's cycles in history, right?
Yep.
And the only reason you can't connect the dots is because you haven't taken the time to go look into that, why that happened, and what caused that, and what led up to that. Right, you can see the common denominators that are moving through.
Sure. Yeah. And sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? I mean, nothing's ever going to be more harmful to a bad idea than a good idea. Nothing's ever going to be more harmful to a bad movement, particularly from the government, than the people being informed and educated. That's always going to be the case. And you're not doing yourself any favors by becoming nihilistic about the process and saying, you know what, they're all just crooks, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. You can say they're all just crooks. I say it every single day. Well, actually, what I say is all politicians are cunts. But I guess C could stand for crooks as well. But not engaging in the process is really fucking stupid. I believe Plato said something to the effect of, if you refuse to take part in your own governance, then you're doomed to be ruled by fools, right? Mm-hmm. And that is exactly how it is. People need to take responsibility. The worse things get, the harder you should fight, not the less. Like people think that the worse things get, you should start to lose hope. No, you should fight harder and harder as things get worse. Yeah. And things are getting worse and worse in this country day by day with all this worse shit.
Yeah, bro. It's insane. Like, dude, I think back to 1775, right? Like, or you look back to fucking, Normandy, right? Like, there were 17-year-old men doing insane things, risking their lives, not a care in the world about what it fucking costs. And then you look at 17-year-olds now, right? And so I always like that are arguing over fucking soy lattes, you know what I'm saying, or pronouns, right? And I think I always like to think, I'm always like a why person, because I try to be very logical, right? I want to know, why does A plus B equal C, right? And I think one of the things that, these cunts have relied on and used and weaponized is our apathy, one, but they've also taken our hearts, because, dude, a lot of people have, we all have big hearts, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're very tolerant people, and they've used that against us. But I think even going back to 1950s, 1960s, when mass media was really becoming this big thing, and it began to be televised, and they moved through all of that phase. I would never say I think it's okay. It's okay to have a reasonable expectation of what we're seeing in our TV and what we're seeing on these phones are accurate and the truth, right? There's a reasonable expectation to trust our doctors that are making these health decisions, to trust these organizations that, with all these fancy names and letters behind these people's names, right? Like, there's a reasonable expectation to trust these people. And I think, what, if anything, the last 3 years have taught us is that we can't, right? The same goes for parent-teacher conferences, right? Like, you have a reasonable expectation to trust when you send your kid to school that teacher has that child's best interest in mind. They're not pumping them full of pronouns and fucking drag queen shows, right? There's a reasonable expectation. But if anything in the last 3 years have taught us is that we can no longer just be apathetic, and we can no longer have that reasonable expectation of trust, right? In anything. In the education system, in the financial system, in our political system, right? We can no longer have that. And so I think at the basics level, the base level, the fundamental level, no matter if you have 3 million followers or you have 3, right? Take the needing the attention and the likes and comments, remove that shit to the side. There are 1,000 things that you could do right now that will affect the outcome of just your personal little circle, right? And then if somebody happens to see that, well, damn, DJ and Dan are doing that. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can do that here with my shit, right? Like, that's how you have a fucking revolution. Like, nobody wants a civil war. And I really would hope that it doesn't get to that, man, because nobody wins in that. And we'll still be left at the end of it like, okay, well, fuck, we still got, how do we fix this shit? Yeah, like, that's done, right? But we still got shit to fix.
Yep.
This shit, it requires a revolution culturally from the ground level, man. Mm. Enough people will take care of their own shit and start fixing those holes that they have in their own boats, bro. We'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the more you improve yourself, and then your family, and then your community, right, from the bottom up, the less access bad actors have to any of those things. That's why one of the things I've told people for years now is to every act you make, every political act you make should be in some way designed to box the government out of your life. Because, and it's not just the government, it's also bureaucrats and, the fucking predatory charities and all this other bullshit that goes on. Anybody that's trying to capture your attention and leverage your attention towards some kind of thing that doesn't benefit you, box them out of your life. If somebody in your area needs help, you help them. Don't wait for the fucking government to come in and do that shit.
Not nobody else's problem.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
yours.
Exactly. And if you felt like that, if people, instead of feeling like, man, this is a really tough situation, felt like, hey, my neighbor needs help, so I'm going to help him, then, that changes things rapidly and dramatically. And there's nothing that the government can actually do about that either.
No.
So it's certainly the best defense against outside intrusion.
100%, man.
Well, cool. I got to get going. We're going to do some more shows here today. I appreciate you coming on today. This has been great.
Damn, brother, I appreciate you. I'm gonna. I already ordered that first book you sent me, A Hunter Gatherer's Guide.
Yeah,
I gotta get that second.
Yeah, The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff. It's a really good one. And tell everybody before we get out of here about RealAF and CTI and all that bullshit you guys do.
Yeah, guys, RealAF Podcast. We actually just started going real heavy on YouTube. Pushing some of the boundaries over there. Everything's going pretty good there. But yeah, man, it's Andy founded it, started the MFCO project 8 years ago. Changed up the conversations and created the RealAF platform, which basically just exposes all the lies. It's on brand with everything you got going on, Dan. And it's imperative for people to know the reality of the world we live in and how to operate in the world that that is, and not operating in the world that should be. And that's essentially what we talk about. So RealAF on any on pretty much every platform out there. Yeah, check us out.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming today. Great conversation as always. And I think myself and JT are going to come back up there pretty soon to do a show with you guys. I think sometime early January, I think. But I'll keep you guys posted. And thank you all. Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.